What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I am one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Erik Turner. And Erik, bit of a weird week. Bills
Yes.
played on a short week on a Thursday night. And I say weird week mainly for us with how we process after the game and how we're recording this now, what we're doing. But it doesn't really matter when the Bills get another win. And the Bills are sitting there 2-0.
Yes.
They beat a division rival. They looked good in doing so on both sides of the ball, especially when you factor in the injuries in game on the defensive side and the injuries going into the game on the defensive side. So really a total complete performance on a short week, which has some Bills variables, which we're going to get into in this episode. But at the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. The Bills are 2-0. They get to go into this mini bye heading into week 3 against the Jags on Monday night. It's a good place to be. And it's always a good place to be here in the film room. How you feeling? How you doing?
I mean, the Bills are 2-0. So, I mean, I'm feeling good. And, you know, covering a team that has been as successful as the Bills have the last few years, it's been fun. So, yeah, to start off 2-0 and to, ride that 2-0 wave pretty comfortably, all things considered, when you're talking about the matchups. Week 2 win against the Dolphins, against the division rival, is great. Obviously, it could factor in down the line, but the Bills overall, offense, defense, special teams, looked very prepared on a short week, which is a great thing to see. But I also find it interesting. I think the NFL and the schedulers for the NFL, they do the Bills some favors when they put them on this short week. And you think about, who they probably, could have put them up against. And, the fact that they put him against the Dolphins, a division rival, a team that the Bills know so well on a short week, and for the Bills to come out that prepared and that crisp and poised, like that was encouraging. And I feel like every single year, the Bills, you think about the week 4 matchup last year against the Dolphins, every single year, the Bills put out a blueprint, how to slow down the dynamic Dolphins offense. And this game was no different. Again, on a short week, they just looked so much faster and ahead of the Dolphins for most of that game. And so I'm excited to, break down the film, both sides of the ball tonight. And hopefully you guys get a little better idea of how the Bills attack the Dolphins on the offense and defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the goals of this episode, really in every episode as we dive into the film room here. I love your point about the Bills kind of providing the blueprint for beating the Dolphins. And because I'm thinking back to, I think it was 2 years ago when they lost the game in the Sun game, the Heat game in Miami. Yeah. And I remember leading up to the second game against Miami, Miami had lost. I forget who it was to. And so many people were like, oh, like the Bills should use that blueprint of what that defense did to slow down Miami.
It was a Chargers blueprint.
Yes, thank you. But the Chargers were using a bunch of the stuff the Bills did earlier in the year. And it was like so infuriating because it was like, no, the Bills gave that blueprint, but nobody paid attention because the story was the Bills had the ball for like 70% of the minutes and the Heat and the injuries and the Miami won, yada, yada. But the Bills provided that blueprint. And it just seems like game in and game out. The only game I really feel like Miami started to get things moving was the Saturday night snow game later in that same year. But it's because they ran the ball a ton. Mostert was breaking tackles and they were able to get some pieces going. But the Bills and, Sean McDermott obviously being a significant part of that, Bobby Babbage being the DC now, but they do a good job of throwing in little wrinkles and changing some things up. But from just a structure and an identity perspective, I hate saying this because this is every red flag in my superstitious body makes me not want to say it, but they do a really good job in just knowing what to call and when to call and having the Dolphins number especially from a pass game perspective, be like, cool, you can run the ball for like 5 or 6 yards. Oh, you busted one off for 11. Cool. We know you're going to go back to the pass. We know where to put our bodies. We know when to roll into specific coverages and what to do situationally. And they just continue to kind of really gum up the works for a legitimately explosive offense. Granted, there are some holes in it. And I was really impressed with the defensive performance again, especially with no Taron Johnson, no Matt Milano. Terrell Bernard goes out very early.
Yeah.
Miami, we talk about it all the time. All the things that Miami does to stress you, a lot of that stress is on the second level with all the misdirection and the eye candy and the presentation.
Aside from Josh Allen, Terrell Bernard was my key player for this game. And then he's out after the first drive or so. It's like, Man, like I was worried, especially
Same.
when you consider how much time his backup, Baylon Spector, missed this entire camp and preseason.
And that was my thought too. So then he goes out and Spector comes in and I'm like, all right, Spector's in. And then I'm like, oh, he hasn't, played at all. And especially against this opponent, that whole second level is backup dudes. Granted, Cam Lewis has a bunch of experience, but they performed admirably. The coaching staff performed admirably. We got a strong performance on the offside of the ball. It really was a complete victory for this Bills team.
And I'm glad you brought up that game a few years ago, when it was hot down there in Miami. It's something we talked about in that film room after that game was how the Dolphins taxed Josh
Mm.
Allen. Well, in this game, Josh wasn't taxed at all. In fact, he got a lot of breathers. And it was just one of those games where like he's handing it off, he's getting the ball out of his hands to Kincaid, some quick passes. He had to only make 3 or 4 of those Superman type plays, sometimes out of structure, sometimes scrambling. More of his teammates kind of carried the offense, and he was just a distributor in those critical situations and got the ball out of his hands and did some awesome shit talking. To be honest, like he was everything that you want from a quarterback when you want other guys to step up and him not have to do anything or everything. And so guys like Shakir, guys like Cook, guys like Ty Johnson, like all these like lower name type guys, like we're starting to contribute in week 2 and completely kind of different when we're talking from week 1. So each week it's going to be different. It's nice to see this iteration, this evolution of the offense when we're talking Josh Allen, Joe Brady, and the pieces that are around him on offense.
Yeah, it's funny juxtaposing this offensive performance with the one last week. I thought the run game was better against Arizona than people were
Yeah.
giving it credit for. I know a lot of run game detractors were like, "Well, look at this stat and look at this," but the run game was successful against Arizona, opened up a lot of things. But to your point, a lot of that game was really like, "Hey, Josh Allen is going to go be a unicorn and do some Josh Allen stuff." And this game, it was, let's start him out early with some nice, quick passes to Dalton Kincaid where the numbers give us an advantage. So we're going to do that. We're going to set you up for success with the first touchdown of the game, which we're going to break down here in the film room. We're going to run the ball successfully and pivot into more some gap scheme stuff as the game goes along. It really was just a game that, when Allen made a couple plays that are, unique to Josh Allen and avoiding some pressure and making some throws and avoiding sacks. But a lot of it, to your point, he got a good performance from the supporting cast, both in terms of Joe Brady and the players on the field. And that's really encouraging because if you can win and you don't have to pull the Josh Allen unicorn card,
Right.
man, like just it happens with the Chiefs all the time when everybody's like, oh, if the Chiefs got a run game now, oh my God, now they have this, and you can just let Patrick Mahomes take a breather. Like that's such a huge piece for this offense. And when you're playing complementary football in that regard, along with what the defense was doing, just a really fun, strong, holistic performance from this team.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously going into this game, the talk was about the Bills' record versus the Dolphins over the last few years, how Allen owns them. And, the Dolphins must be like, what the hell just
Yeah.
happened? Because we dedicated all these resources and effort to slow down Josh Allen. And we, for the most part, statistically slowed him down, except for a few plays. And then other guys are stepping up. Obviously, complementary football defense stepped up as well. But it must be frustrating for the Dolphins defense to see what they did statistically to Allen and for the Bills to still put up that many points. It has to be frustrating. So we're looking at some of the offensive personnel percentage to kind of get an idea, specifically in this game, how the Bills attack them. And you can see that the Bills used 11 personnel, 57.8%, which for them is a little higher than normal when you're considering how often they put 12 personnel on the field. And you can see even 12 personnel wasn't on the field all that much in this game, 4.4%, 21%. 21 personnel was 8.9%. That was a little on the high side, but that's typically end of game stuff. So that kind of muddies some things up. But the personnel that we're kind of seeing from time to time is where they don't have any running backs on the field. That's 0-1 personnel. So 0 running backs, 1 tight end. That's when you see guys like Curtis Samuel in the backfield, and we'll break down a couple of those plays. So you can see some cool things when you're looking at their personnel in this game and through the first 2 weeks. And the reason I bring this up, Ann, is because even though they were in 11 personnel a bunch, as you'll see in some of the offensive plays, it doesn't mean they're in like some spread offense. they were still putting Josh under center, even with his injury. They were still having their wide receivers almost line up like quasi tight ends, Matt Collins, Shakir, and running duo and running some of those, tackle wraps from under center or shotgun. So it just because they're an 11 personnel doesn't mean they're not going to run these condensed formations to get everyone into the box. And then you're also going to see them in spread formations with, tight ends getting quasi screens or leverage throws out to the flats like Kincaid did 2 or 3 different times. And you're having the wide receivers block for him. So they've shown a diverse set of personnel groupings, but also a diverse set of run concepts, whether it's run or pass, with the personnel groupings. And sometimes they don't really match up. Sometimes they go heavy, but they spread them. Sometimes they go lighter and they condense. It's been fun to watch the iteration of this offense with Joe Brady.
Yeah, it's been a really nice thing to see, and I'm even more excited because it's what I thought this offense would lean into, and given just the body types and frames, and that's the true bind you can put defenses in. You can be an 11 and go spread or go condensed and run it down someone's throat, or you can be in 12 and go spread or go condensed and run it down someone's throat. Like, you have the ability to access more of the menu without having to turn the page and change personnel. And we saw a little bit of that in this game. And when you add that with the run game I'm just so excited about it. Like, when you add that to, and you mentioned it, right? When you add that ability to be so diverse in terms of what your personnel can do, but then your run game menu and concepts, you can get into duo and you can line up in the same look and run duo or run mid zone to the other side. And then what they can do with the tackle pull stuff out of condensed stuff, or also how they can work it out of spread. And then if you start to add that in with just pure numbers and leverage reads with pass tags on the back of it, then you're just spitting the ball out quick to Kincaid or Shakir and all of the layers that start to build and stack. And it was really exciting to see how they got into that in this game and how successful it was. And really, when we're talking about success, Erik, I think this opening play that we're going to show, just Joe Brady setting up Josh Allen for success. Allen talked about this play after the game. It really was a perfect call in the perfect situation against the defense they want, and one that kind of came about a little bit ironically after they tried to get into it. Allen said he messed up the call. They called timeout, came back out here, and you just got exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, and you're referring to the James Cook 17-yard receiving touchdown here on what Joe Brady calls slither, or what he called slither at LSU. I know, was it Nate Tice that said mesh traffic, which is a cool one too. And I love your you alluding to them coming out initially on the 4th down play and doing all of these motions and shifts. And honestly, if you go back and look, the defense didn't react the same way. They actually showed zone. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I assume that, hey, maybe they didn't get the man coverage look they wanted. So they call timeout, they come back out and they run the same play. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But then you see the movement, and we've, all of us have broken this down a little bit. You watch the movement by Cook, you see David Long, number 11, go with him. Then you see James Cook settle in, and you see Samuel start moving, and Jalen Ramsey follows him. And so it's obvious man coverage. That's a great indicator, double motion, some shifting going on. And so with that, you can see who they identify of the guy they need to rub. They need to rub right here, David Long, the linebacker, and Hollins and who's that? Shakir do a great job of just getting in the way just enough. And you get pressure off the edge. That's the other thing that's really not talked about enough is Josh is actually throwing hot here. So he has to buy a little time by drifting and using his eyes to hold the defenders in that 3rd level, because it is cover 0. And he does a great job of drifting just enough and then floating the ball up and over that rusher. But the placement is perfect. I mean, it couldn't be any better, Anthony, for Cook. He gets up the sideline, thinks about doing the flip. He says, you know what? I probably shouldn't, because that's Javon Holland. And he's right there at the goal line. Really, really good play by the Bills. And it's a play that we've seen, right? We've seen that play. We saw it last year against the Jets, I believe, in the low red zone. We saw it against the Cowboys, but Cook dropped it. This is a play that the Bills are going to use pretty much all season once they get inside the red zone or in these critical moments like 4th and 3 on this play.
Yeah, it's a great low red zone concept and great man beater concept, and you hit everything on it. I had pulled the Josh Allen quote directly after the game. So he said, quote, "I messed up the call before the timeout. Fortunately, we called the same play and they changed to really the defense we were hoping to get.
Yep.
They went zero. I gave a little eyes right just to hold some people, and then knowing that I got the safety coming off the edge. So it wasn't the safety, it was Cater Co who was the slot corner.
And you know what? Anthony Weaver's the new DC for the Dolphins. After that happens and you see what the Bills are trying to do, it's a pretty obvious man coverage, or at least they're trying to get man coverage.
Yeah.
Why would you come out and switch from zone to man?
I thought
that to me is that's the question that needs to be asked to Weaver. Is like, why would you, after seeing all that transpire, why would you shift the man coverage?
And so what's funny is you see this a lot, right? Where like teams come out in these like certain third downs or fourth down sets, and they don't get the look and they call timeout, but they often come back out and run the same play. And so I thought the same thing when they were in man. I was like, oh, this is actually working out. I'm actually super annoyed too that like the film usually, if there's a penalty on a play, we'll get the film of it, but because there was a timeout, it didn't show it, and I really wish we could have had it. But yeah, with everything we said here, like there's not too much for me to add. You hit it. I really just love too the job that Mac Hollins does on that play, pointing out Kohu, and helping give that indicator to Allen. And then the job that he does, we've seen this get messed up in the past by the Bills and by other teams when you're trying to run that interference and you get too much of the dude and you get called for a penalty. Hollins, as you highlighted there, he sits down and then at the last minute olays him. So he gets in the way, he creates that leverage for Cook, and then just olays him, doesn't touch him. Yes, it leads him to some incidental contact. And to your point too, a good job by Shakir as well. Like he's eyeing up long, but he jumps inside as well. And yeah, Allen, like he said, he knew he was getting that blitz off the slot. He gives some eyes right to hold it. And also a good point by you, the ball placement, right?
Yeah.
Getting it out in front of Cook so he can take it and go. He doesn't have to stop and turn and allow Holland to potentially make a play and bring him down short of the touchdown.
Just awesome. An awesome way to start the game. And it's nothing special. That play, I love the setup pre-snap and everything, but it's a pretty simple approach. And honestly, you can tell they were only trying to get the ball to Cook on that play, right? Like there's really no second read, third read. Like,
and that's what's nice too. Like that's an easy button for Allen. Like we talk about like giving him breathers and the run game working. That's also kind of like a breather. He doesn't have to do anything. It's like, hey man, catch the ball on the snap, just look right a little bit and then float it to your dude. And yeah, that's a play that gets run. It gets run a ton in college. The Niners don't do it with CMC. Like you said, Brady did it last year. And it's just when it works like that, it's such a nice, easy button. And Allen gets the stat, but he doesn't have to do a lot mentally or physically to make it work, which is a huge benefit.
Yeah. Speaking of getting the ball to a dude, here's this shot to Shakir over the middle. And it's just so much fun to watch the rapport and development between Allen and Shakir. Shakir finished with 5 receptions for 54 yards. 3 of those receptions and 23 yards were on third down. He's become the third down guy. He's become the third and Beasley, right? And here's a third down play. And Josh, honestly, is looking to the top of the screen. So it looks like a 2-high structure. So he's looking at the 2-high beaters, kind of like a smash concept up top between Kincaid and Hollins. You see like a little flat corner route here, and then you're going to see a pivot back out. So it's a good high-low concept, but it's not there. But Josh goes through his progressions, sees it's not there, and then immediately gets his eyes to the middle of the field. And just watch Shakir work the zone versus this Tampa 2 type coverage. You see Long's back turn to Shakir, but then you see Shakir pivot just a little away. Josh gets to him and rifles it in there for the first down. Again, third down play where Josh was looking to his man and getting to his man as the third option. We talked about the mechanics with Allen early in the season and the rhythm and progression that he's shown. We saw that again in this game. And it's not even like super special. It's not robotic, but it's just so smooth. His feet and his eyes are in such good rhythm right now. And then you see the rifle, the big throw from him as he realizes, oh, there he is. He's out. Boom. And just rifles it in there for the first down.
Yeah, Miami drops 8 into coverage here. Also, a quick little shout out for Calais Campbell, number 93. He's 38 years old, and he's still productive. He's dropping into coverage here pretty well for his size and frame and age. Yep. And then just walls him off and bangs right into Hollins. So they drop 8. And exactly like you said, it's nice to see Allen going through his reads. Again, he has the time because Miami only rushed 3 and the Bills offensive line gave him a good pocket, but you can see him calmly just going from that right side, his eyes carrying him back over to Shakir the whole time. He's bouncing. He's on his toes. And like you said, his eyes are in rhythm with his feet. His shoulders are in alignment. He's looking. And then the form there, the phrasing, Eric, that we continue to use week after week when his mechanics are on, he bites the burger with the left hand, rotates through with that throwing shoulder, and
sets
comes
that
over
hallway. The arch of that right foot is usually, it needs to be pointed at the target. It's just beautiful, man. His they call it the kinematic sequencing has been so good through 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been really nice to see, and again, makes sense with what we've heard from him and the work that he put in this offseason and kind of getting back to the spot. A lot of the work that we saw early in his career with Palmer in the offseason, and it's just nice when he finishes this throw. It looks like a shortstop throwing over to first and rifling one over to try and get the out. Like, you just see that body rotation and you see that upper body movement, and it comes from having a good base and then tying it into his eyes, reading everything, processing everything. Really nice play and how he rifles it in there, but it comes from good mechanics, good eyes, and good body position.
Here's a play we talked about earlier: 0-1 personnel, so 0 running backs, 1 tight end in on this play, and this throw is just
Wild.
special. It's a throw that, like, we take for granted sometimes, and we talked about that sequencing and rhythm. Just watch Josh again trying to work the top of the screen. There, have a sticker out by Kincaid, a speed out by Coleman. Could he have hit Coleman? Yeah, absolutely. But it looks like he wants to go to Kincaid on this play, but the defender does a good job of colliding and closing that down. So Josh just moves on in his progression and eventually hits Shakir down the field. The Bills get a few more yards because of the hit Poyer put on Shakir, but watch from the end zone angle and just the rhythm and timing that Josh has. Working through his progression, backed up in his area of the field, and the Bills are backed up here and just working through it. Look at the feet. Look at him hopping, just keeping those feet active and hot so that when he wants to pull the trigger, he can do this. And then he violently throws that right hip through to create that torque and torsion to make that throw to Shakir for the first down.
Yep, we get another rotation through on the throw, the left hand. He's biting the burger again. He's mechanically sound in his reads and his process. Also, again, to highlight some good play. Good job by number 20, like you said, Jordan Brooks, locking down Kincaid on this play. He's a better coverage linebacker than he gets credit for. And just watching Allen, just how comfortable he is, like you said, just bouncing and looking and, okay, who's open? No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Oh, there it is. Bang. And then I think you could tell, but maybe this is just, trying to add another extra level of shine, or some people might say. I think he knows that Poyer's coming from that other side. He protects Shakir with this throw. So he fires it in there to Shakir. The ball placement in general, look where he has to put it, because Shakir's about to be in a triangle of defenders. He puts it right on the button for Shakir, but also puts it in a spot where he keeps him away from Poyer and doesn't lead him into extra contact. That's also like a tremendous element. We've seen Allen do that a bit recently in his career, that understanding of where that other coverage player is going to be and throwing his guy to kind of force him to settle down, force him to sit in that space, which is a super receiver friendly. You're protecting your dude. And in this case, it actually kind of leads to Poyer lunging a little bit, and then he gets flagged for the 15.
And that's important because look where the ball spot is on the right hash. So this is the short side of the field that he's trying to work. So he knows that the safety doesn't have to move much. And so he has to keep his eyes to this side of the field to hold Poyer, obviously, because Poyer doesn't have to move. He doesn't, again, they're keeping everything in front of themselves when we're talking the coverage here. So using his eyes and working the progression to right to left here from the Bills' perspective is smart. And again, it holds Poyer just enough. And usually this is usually a clearing route. This is usually taking these safeties, with them so they can hit the dagger behind it. So again, this is a throw that probably not many quarterbacks want to make because of that, and because of the Poyers kind of poaching there and the safeties and how they're playing this into the short side of the field. And so most quarterbacks probably don't make this throw to Shakir. They don't want to expose the wide receiver to the type hit that, we expect to see in the NFL. But that throw, the velocity and the placement were just so on point, it didn't matter. And that's what makes Josh Allen when we're talking about, playing above the scheme at times. But this one, great job within structure, accuracy, placement, and velocity on that throw. And here's another one, a 3rd and long play. Bills, they set it up like they're running mesh, but it's kind of more of a shallow drag concept. And the spacing of it, honestly, is not that good. If we're talking, watch Matt Collins and watch Kincaid, they kind of end up in the same spot, but it doesn't matter. Josh gets outside of the pocket and he extends the play, and his composure as he was scrambling. Normally he's running full speed out to the right and making this throw, and it's not the like a good pass. He was so under control. We could do it from the other end zone angle. He was so under control on this play as he's scrambling out to his right that he was able to make that accurate placement back inside, away from Jalen Ramsey to Ty Johnson again on 3rd down. Like, just look how composed he is and the mechanics of it. I mean, perfect pass, nearly a touchdown for Ty Johnson, a guy again that is, essentially a 3rd down type back who they trust in pass protection. Will do some things, in that regard, some receiving stuff. But this was a really nice play by him, running that rail, extending the play with Josh, staying in the play, and Josh hit him for nearly a touchdown.
I also love the situation that this happened. And so it was 3rd down, 3rd and 12 specifically. There's 7 minutes, 11 seconds left in the second quarter, and it was 10-7 Bills at this time. If they don't get this completion, you're trying the field goal. Bass hasn't been the most reliable. If he misses it, are you giving Miami good field position and potential momentum going forward? So situationally, this was a big play. And then you highlight the spacing and the players. So I love exactly where you're going. So Allen talked about on this play. First, he said, he was feeling zone coverage after motioning Shakir across. But then as he rolls out, he said he saw the deep safety jump something underneath. And that's what you have highlighted there with Holland. Holland sees Kincaid, and this makes sense, right? Yeah. You're seeing what's going on in front of you. You know the down and distance, and Kincaid does a good job uncovering, and Allen's rolling right. If you're Holland, you see that flash, and you're jumping it. Then he puts the brakes on, and actually, even as he puts the brakes on, he starts to go to like Hollins a little bit. But to your point, Ty Johnson just continued upfield. He gets inside positioning on Ramsey, doesn't stop the route, and then Allen just puts it right on the money, right in between the numbers, a dot and a dart right onto that chest. So a big situational play. Good job from Allen pre-snap, recognizing that no one was going with Shakir, so you're going to get zone, and then getting out of the pocket, making a play out of structure and off script, but keeping his eyes downfield. Also, one last little piece, a little shout to Spencer Brown for the snatch trap on Jalen Phillips. Yeah, he doesn't completely detach Phillips's inside arm from his chest plate, but he wrenches him down, and this causes Phillips to slip. Not that you need a lot of impetus to slip in this game because everybody was falling.
It was terrible.
And I know there was a bunch of games in many days. I even said it yesterday watching Miami, the Hurricanes play Ball State. Everybody was falling down again, and it happens a lot with this field. So good job from Brown feeling that lean. If Phillips is leaning hard on that long arm, Brown feels it, chops him down, helps Allen get out that front door. And yeah, just a really great play all around by Allen, Ty Johnson, and Spencer Brown too.
Yeah, and kudos to the Bills offensive line altogether. I talked about how the Dolphins must be frustrated. According to PFF, the offensive line only surrendered 5 hurries in this game. No QB hits, no sacks. And so there was a lack of pass rush from the Dolphins. And again, maybe that has to do with them trying to contain Allen. They weren't running any crazy twists or games or blitzes to really try to fluster Allen. We're so used to the Dolphins doing a lot of those, cover 0 looks and pressures and trying to get the ball out of his hands, trying to create those turnovers. Kudos to the Bills offensive line. They handled everything that Anthony Weaver and the Dolphins sent at them. I know it wasn't much, but they only allowed 5 hurries in this game. And so kudos to them when it comes to the pass blocking so far this year. I think, overall, they've done a great job. I think they're 9th overall in pass blocking efficiency through 2 games with an 89% efficiency rate. So they're top 10 right now in that regard. They finished top 10 last year. I think they were 5th last year. So there's not been much drop off, but again, consider the teams, the Cardinals, who don't have much of a pass rush. Dolphins are missing some players. Obviously, Jalen Phillips is still coming back, but either way, they're still, a top 10 pass blocking team. But now let's move to the run game, because while they probably didn't run as well as they did in week 1 before the Cardinals kind of shifted. I think they still had some really nice plays. And this is one of their top plays. It's a dual run call. And this is our easy loan auto sales play of the game. It's a 49-yard run, touchdown run by James Cook. Finishes it with the flip in the end zone. And something's up here. I don't know what the Dolphins were trying to do here with the Bills, bringing on the extra offensive lineman. They have 2 receivers out to the right side of the screen here. So you got an extra offensive lineman, obviously a tight end right here in Dawson Knox. I don't understand this defensive structure, but I'm not going to question it. I'm going to applaud it. And we're going to call it our easy loan auto sales play of the game, because you get a triple team right here. I mean, you don't really see a triple team on duo runs. They call it duo for a reason. It's usually a couple of double teams.
Yeah.
The Bills get a triple team. They create that vertical displacement. And then you see the quickness of James Cook inside and then cutting it back outside, running that ladder and running away from our boy, Jordan Poyer, from the post high safety look for the touchdown. This was a big run. This is the first play after a turnover on downs. And so this, for the Bills to play that complementary football, we saw some nice passes. We saw a big run, an explosive run on a big night for James Cook here.
Yeah, this is a huge play for the Bills. And like you said, after the turnover on down, so that was already a gut punch. And then this is a further gut punch. I love that you talked about the defensive structure in Miami. My thought that was in my head was, maybe they were still playing for the mid-zone run at this point. Like, you get the motion. The Bills had still been running that weak side mid-zone. And the couple drives before, they started to work in more duo and some tackle wrap stuff. So they're starting to move more gap. But I was thinking maybe they're still playing for the mid-zone run. Because exactly to your point, like, it makes no sense. Like, they cannot cover this front side whatsoever. And then, look at the gap. Like, that's a giant bubble. That's a bit of a bubble. Yeah.
That's a bubble.
So I don't understand what they were going for there. And this works exactly like you wanted to if you're the Bills, except, you get the triple team. I said on Twitter, it's like, this one is truo, because it's like a triple.
I like it.
I didn't know what to really call it. I thought it was funny. But like, you're hoping, right? You know you're going to get an unblocked defender if you're running duo. You're hoping it's like the nickel or the outside corner. And Fuller, 29, is unblocked. But Cook doesn't even have to get to that spot because the triple team blows hand off the ball. David Long has to try to do something, so he darts to his left, James Cook's right, and Cook just reads it. Cook also does a really good job, like, running that track right at David Long. That's what you want to do on duo. You want to run that track right at that play side linebacker. He forces him into a bind. Long is still probably trying to see.
Yeah, you can't see where he's at.
No, because
these are all big dudes right up in front of him.
And that's another benefit of having that 6th offensive lineman in there, right? You got 3 mountains in front of you with Torrance, Spencer Brown, and Anderson. Yep, and exactly like you said, the displacement and the push on hand knocks him back, takes Long out of the play as well, and then with that speed that Cook has, if your angle isn't on point, like it isn't there for Jordan Poyer, he can make you pay in a hurry. This was beautiful to see. And I also love too, Cook bounces off that defender and the block from McGovern and just kind of uses it to kind of like rides that wave of, okay, cool, I'll just get north and south off a pinballing off that block there. And then, being able to finish it, making the big play. It shouldn't be that easy, but the Bills and James Cook made it look easy. And that's why this play is our making it look easy play of the game, sponsored, of course, by Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help you get behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. Beautiful play, making it look easy. Yeah, this was a nice one. And nice to see, too, if you could start to get these long, explosive touchdowns from the run game. Like, we talk about the run game being helpful if, like, you can get like 6 to 8 yards or bust off a 10 to 15 yarder. If you're busting off these big chunk plays and these house calls, it adds another different kind of level of threat with this Bills offense. And when you're pairing that with Josh Allen, it starts to get really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I said at the top, like, Josh didn't have to do much. We talked about giving him a breather. I mean, he was completely clean. Like, his jersey wasn't even dirty after
Yeah,
this
he
game. So
got ripped early on, and then it was
yeah,
just clean from he was good.
yeah, and so being able to get those explosive plays, obviously the defense, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, you know, throwing in some points on the board on their side of the ball, giving them short fields to the offense. Like everything was complementary when you're talking offense, defense, and then when we get to the defensive side of the ball, which we're going to get to now, it was also complementary. The pass
Mhm.
rush and pass coverage were working in unison. It was just beautiful to see on a short week versus a dynamic offense. And as you said at the top, with all things considered, when you're talking about Terrell Bernard and he's that you know, that command center type player, right? And he's in charge of setting the defense, setting the coverages, setting the run fits, and he's out and you throw Spector in, and the defense never blinked. They played simple. It was nothing complex. They played simple, fundamental football. They played smart, fast, and physical regardless of who was in there, and it was too much for the Dolphins. They just waited. The Bills defense waited for those errors, whether they're forced or unforced. They came and they capitalized on whether we're talking the pick six with Ingram or the offense. Again, turnover on downs at midfield. Boom, James Cook hits him. That's a punch in the mouth, and that's very difficult to come back to when you're talking about the defensive side of the ball and how well those, you know, both sides of the ball were complementing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And really going with the notion of maintaining two high coverage structures and
Mhm.
making Miami have to not necessarily nickel and dime it down the field, but matriculate the ball downfield, not giving them those 80-yard deep shots and allowing them to generate these huge chunk plays and explosives and making them earn every piece and everything. It was nice to see
Right.
from them in this game. And it was effective, like being able to continuously force them into those spots and allow them to make some unforced errors or some forced errors, and having that ability to mix in different single high looks when you need to. I thought it was a really good approach, and I was interested to see what they would do because Jacksonville had good success in week one against Miami, but they played a ton of cover one, and they were just varying up
Right.
who the robber was or if they were
Not
dropping
the
a low.
Bills game.
Yeah, not the Bills game. And the Bills just came in and ran a bunch of two high stuff and running cover two and Tampa two and getting to Tampa two with some different spins and some different variations and maintaining that layering to the defense and making sure that no one was really put into potentially worrisome like one-on-one situations. Everybody had protection,
Mhm.
and it really flowed from front to back. And again, doing all of that when your signal caller and your leader goes down early, it was a good game plan going in, but then being able to stay the course once Bernard went out, yeah, was a really nice job from the coaching staff and from the players. And we talk about Terrell Bernard going out, and he was replaced by Baylon Spector, who was out for a majority of this training camp and preseason because he was banged up. But he came in, and I thought him stepping in, you saw a little bit of that air traffic controller nature
Yeah.
from Terrell Bernard in his game, but I really just thought the physicality that he played with, the aggressiveness that he played with, considering he was being thrown into the fire right away. I thought he performed admirably, as did that entire second level. He wasn't a complete deficiency. He wasn't a hole. It wasn't a spot where he came in. It was like, well, once Spector came in, they pinpointed him and attacked him. So, an encouraging performance from him as we kind of wait to see how long Terrell Bernard is potentially out for.
All right, you talk about Spector and the Bills. I said didn't blink when he came in. They ran their coverages, they ran their defense, and I thought when you talk about coverages and what the Bills have done the first couple weeks, the Bills are in zone coverage 77% of the time, which is no surprise. But in this game, again, they know the Dolphins and where the Dolphins want to go with the ball, and it felt like regardless of coverage, which you said they played a lot of too high structures, zone coverages. It didn't matter. Regardless of what coverage they're in, they seem to always know where the ball wanted to go
Yeah.
and how to take it
They
away.
knew what windows to be in and when to
Yeah.
get into them and just the right timing. Time and time again, they were just at the right time in the right
Yep.
place at the right time. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and it's zone coverage, but they almost matched the area that the
Mm,
Dolphins wanted to attack. It wasn't spot dropping, "Hey, let me just get to the hook to curl area." Like, they knew exactly where they needed to be to take
yep,
away that first look, that quick look, that easy pass that usually turns into explosives.
yeah.
And speaking of that, they only let one big play, one explosive play on defense when you're talking the passing game. And so through 2 weeks, we're looking at some of the coverages to give you an idea, what they have run so far. And this is no surprise given what they did against the Dolphins. So far, they're running zone coverage, cover 2, 29.6% of the time. That's tops in the NFL. Again, no surprise given week 2. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Last year, they were running cover 2, 17.2%. That was 5th overall. That was their second highest coverage last year. So you can see right now they're primarily a 2-high cover 2 type team. But in this game, they also ran some cover 3. And honestly, that's where the turnovers were coming from. The 3 interceptions, 2 out of 3 of those interceptions were in cover 3. The other one was cover 6, which we'll break down here a little bit. So the Bills defense and coverages so far I don't say they haven't been surprising, but I think it's the complementary football. When you talk about, the Bills having, leading the lead right now in sacks and some of the pressure stuff that they're doing, they're getting obviously some really good production up front when we're talking pressure in the quarterback. But again, they're getting complementary ball on the back end, really good coverages in the proper spots, leading to turnovers. And so I think so far it's been good to see. And talking about good to see, you talked about it, Spector. I think he had an okay game. I think most fans coming away from this, they looked at the stat sheet and were like, man, he had 11 tackles or something like that.
He was a star. Yeah.
We need to pump the brakes a little bit because a lot of the average depth of tackles for him were very Leslie look like they were down the field a little more. But
oh man,
we're gonna show you some good and bad from him in this game. So let's jump into some of this stuff from Spector because again, it's good and bad, and they're gonna have to ride him for a few weeks. And a lot of people want Buffalo Joe in there, but I think Spector showed why he's ahead of Buffalo Joe on the depth chart. So this play was immediately recognized by Spector. It comes downhill, uses that shoulder and physicality and plays into Armstead there, the left tackle. You see him come down, immediately shut it down. And if he doesn't make this tackle, this wrap and roll here, I think Achane is out this door right here. And good luck, Rap, right? Good luck, Rap. Good luck, Hamlin, on tracking him down. Very quick recognition, wrap and roll by Spector on this play. I thought this was one of his better plays on the day against the Dolphins.
Absolutely. And I thought in general, he did a good job kind of keying in on the motions and calling things out. And this time you see it pay off in a big way. Like you said, I think Devin Achane's a really good running back. I know a lot of people do. And with that much space and you got safeties coming from depth, that's a worrisome aspect out there in space. But you don't have to worry about it because Spector triggers right away. He gets into that gap, plays right into the shoulder, but I like how he plays into the shoulder of Armstead, but doesn't get caught in the contact too much. He gets into him and then immediately bounces off and makes that tackle. He doesn't stick into the block. He doesn't get too concerned with trying to run through Armstead. He gets in there to be responsible with his fit and be in the gap and then gets off and makes the tackle. That's a good play at the line considering how Miami's trying to manipulate you and then the overall box count with what you have for the Bills and from a size perspective as well. That's a good job by him, making that play immediately in the moment and shutting it down before it can really get started.
Yeah, one of the things you're going to see on film, well, he missed a couple tackles in this game, 2 tackles according to PFF, but he also does stick to some blocks a little bit. You see him, I like the change of direction, realizing, it looks like they're going to kind of bring this guy across, but you also get split flow, this guy pulling. And so there's a lot being thrown at him. He does a good job of changing direction and getting into the proper gap, but he can't get off this block by Hill. And you see Achane get into that third level, really nice tackle by Hamlin in the open field. These are the type of things that, again, he needs to work on, getting off blocks. You see Bernard, immediately shed these type of blocks all the time. Spector gets eaten up here, and it happened a few times in this game.
Yeah, especially kind of at that second level. Like there were a couple times where offensive linemen climbed towards him at the second level, were able to really ride him along. He's going to have, yeah, he got put in the dirt on one. Yeah, I'm fine with him taking on the contact, but he's got to be able to deconstruct that block, use his hands, get some extension. And you can almost see, look where his eyes are in that moment. Like his eyes are almost too much on Hill. It's not like he's taking on the block
Right.
with the intention of still making the play on Achane. He's almost like taking on the block to take on the block, and there's a huge alley there. So hoping that recognition starts to generate with him a little bit more. Either take that straight on,
Downhill.
or dip underneath that
Avoid
shoulder,
it.
play through that outside
Yeah.
shoulder, fit that gap. Like, you don't need to play through the man. You need to play through part of the man while maintaining your fit and your integrity. Again, it's kind of the opposite of what he did there on the first play we showed. It would be like if he just ran square and straight tried to go through Terran Armstead. That's not happening. And you highlight the rest of the fit there.
Yeah.
Or if Spector plays through that inside shoulder of Hill, Dorian
Yep.
Williams has the outside box stand. You've got Taylor Rapp coming down from the fit. It's still going to be a positive game for the Dolphins, but significantly less yardage because of how Achane is kind of penned in a little bit rather than getting to open space and then a free access to the third level.
Right, and I highlighted some of his change of direction stuff. Here's a really nice one. Again, between the tackles, right there, it cuts it back, and this is tough because it's all showing. It's all showing this way. Everything is showing this way, and so he does flow with it. But it's a wind back play, so the fullback Ingold's going to wind back, and really, it's like an isolation play. He does a good job of cutting back and then just blowing it up, and again, playing with physicality here. I like it. He just blows up Ingold in the hole, and that trips up Achane. So yeah, they get 4 yards or 5 yards on this play, but the change of direction, some of that athleticism and recognition are on this play on top of the physicality to really blow up this play and to bring down Achane.
Yeah, he helicopters Ingold here a little bit. You could see Ingold just kind of spinning a little bit just because the way that Spector hits him and the angle at which he takes him down. And then because he spins Ingold out, that's actually what trips up Achane. Achane hits his inside leg on the right knee of Ingold, and kind of flips him and puts him down. That's a nice physical play in the hole after showing some good change of direction initially. And that's, again, like you said, like a hard thing to do against this Miami team. I like how you labeled this play, because when I first saw it, I was like, is this ISO? And then I was like, well, no.
Essentially is wind back ISO. That's essentially what it is.
And Miami just finds all these creative ways to
So
get to like an ISO run is such
A
like
weak side ISO run.
yeah,
Yep.
it's just such a like cut and dry regular run, but Miami finds a creative way to get to it. And Spector does a good job of kind of mitigating it here. And also even, Dorian Williams getting some extension, making sure that goes inside. Austin Johnson getting off his block there, but Spector gums up the works the way he takes on Ingold, trips up Achane. That's a good play from him.
Yeah, Dorian, Spector, Ed Oliver on this stop. We talked about turnover on downs near midfield. Look at them trigger downhill and just force. I know they saw this play once already, but they immediately come downhill. You see Ed Oliver just split and force the run to go to the left. There's no cutback lane, but then the trigger by Dorian, and then obviously the leverage and downhill play from Spector on this play. Those three working together really shut down this play. And while this is a Spector breakdown, it's important what he does in avoiding that block and box it in. But look at the physicality by Dorian Williams, how he leads. And as soon as he makes contact with Ingold, look at the pads and how he gets thrown back, man. He stuck that fullback for the big stop on this play. Great run defense and recognition by Spector, Dorian Williams, and Ed Oliver.
Yeah, you see Ingold get stood up because Dorian gets underneath him and goes through him. And we see this when Dorian's on, when he gets to that tackle point and he can he tries to go through dudes. He had a couple nice plays in this one, some good chest on knee and just taking dudes down. That physicality is nice to see. The quick trigger from Dorian, him shooting his gap, Ed Oliver shooting his and playing through his man and just working down the line. Spector being responsible, playing through the shoulder, being able to box this in. And even a little bit of credit to Dwayne Carter there at the one tech, getting underneath Brewer and making sure Dorian stays clean. And so there's a nice spot for him to fit through there. This was a good team defense run snap highlighted by the individual players that we highlighted. And it was, again, another momentum swinging play in favor of the Bills, where the defense just continued to set the offense up for success.
And here's a little range from Spector on this play. The Dolphins kind of doing that freeze toss right there, and that's supposed to hold the second level linebackers, and you can see him scrape down the line of scrimmage, initially come downhill a couple yards, and then scrape down the line of scrimmage, work over the top of the block by Eichenberg. And again, it's downfield, but he's stopping him short of the sticks. Like, this is what's important here. Showing off some good range on this play. We saw this a couple times from him. Working down the line of scrimmage and making the tackle, albeit downfield a little bit, but Just a play that kind of show how, his range and how he matches Achane as Achane gets out wide outside the numbers on this toss play.
Yeah, and it's needed from Spector because Cam Lewis shoots and kind of gets cracked and
Right.
pushed a little bit inside. So Spector has to keep flowing over the
Him,
top.
right?
Yep. And he beats Eichenberg over the top, like you said. Rousseau does a good job stringing it out and battling outside to make sure that he forces Achane to get back inside. And this goes back into our conversation initially when we talked about what the Bills were doing defensively in this game and just forcing Miami to continue to have to make plays and matriculate the ball down the field. This ends up being a good gain for Miami. It could have been like a 20-yard gain, or with Achane speed, if he gets literally like a sliver of daylight, he can house it in an
If
instant.
he breaks this, I don't think Rapp's getting him.
No, like look at the speed that he can generate there, the alley. If Spector doesn't make that play, and then the block that Hill has on the outside, who knows where Achane ends up going from there. So again, it's downfield. It's not great from a stat perspective, but some good range and a play that, positive game for Miami, but a good play from Spector to limit them and again keep them off the board based on what happened after that.
So the next few set of plays, it's going to be, we're going to highlight Spector and what he did in coverage and how impressive it was at times. But I also want you guys to think big picture and Bobby Babbage's coverages. In this game, we talked about how much cover 2 they played. They were in cover 2, 15 of 44 dropbacks by the Dolphins. That includes obviously both quarterbacks of the Dolphins. And the Dolphins, they moved the ball 14 for 15 on those plays versus cover 2, 108 yards, 7.2 a clip, but 0 touchdowns and 0 sacks, on the board. So when the Bills went to cover 3, which was 10 of 44 dropbacks, the Dolphins were 4 for 9. So only 4 completions out of 9 for 36 yards, 4.7 yards per attempt. They got 1 touchdown out of it, when Spector was in on that play, and there's a lot of people saying that's Spector's fault. It actually isn't, but I digress. And when the Bills play cover 3, as I said, True Media charted 3 interceptions, but in my opinion, it's only 2. The third one was a cover 6. We'll break it down here in a second, and the Bills got 1 sack. So cover 3, you're bringing that extra defender down, whether you're spinning pre or post snap. And you're trying to stop the run game a little bit, but you're also creating congestion in the middle of the field. And most of Tua's throws were, underneath. And so as we get to some of these plays by Spector, keep in mind the coverages and what they're doing overall from the grand scheme of things. So I want you to watch Spector on this play and how he carries the tight end in the middle of the field and how that frees up the safeties. The safeties don't have to worry about him. He's going to carry that tight end. So now the safeties can work inside, taking away inside leverage on any in-breaking route. The corners can play outside leverage and take anything that goes outside. And this is Ingram right here.
Oh,
He's
man,
covering,
yeah.
he's covering Hill on this play. Just look how calm and composed he is here. Just very good red zone defense. We're talking the coverage here. And I liked what, Spector was able to do in these situations where, hey, we're still going to lean on you. We're not changing our calls. You need to carry this guy. And we're going to see him carry a few different players when we're talking tight ends and wide receivers here, but very good play in the low red zone, playing good leverage, and the Bills force an incompletion.
I think what you said there is super important that, hey, we're still playing the defense. Like you're going to have to execute with how we need to play this defense. It wasn't like they had to, put the kid gloves on or the training wheels back on because he went in there. So that's a good job from him being able to match that tight end and carry him. You can see the vision in the eyes as you have highlighted there from Skylar Thompson. He's looking for that ball right there. And, Tua had, I think it was Tua, he had a tight end on a seam ball. I think it gets cover 2 look earlier in the game, but he just missed it, just put it out past the outstretched hands. And I feel like they're going back to it again here, thinking like, okay, we can get the tight end on the seam, but Spector does a good job carrying it, matching it. Skylar has to look somewhere else. And yeah, just the job there from Ingram too, like how confident he is, how poised he rides Hill throughout this corner. Yep, his eyes are in the backfield, but he doesn't stop moving his feet. He's got his hands on the lower back or the hip, like stabbing that spot, and he just rides Hill throughout the route, kind of squeezes him and forces him to the back, stays in between him and the quarterback and the ball. That's just a really sound play from DeMarcus Ingram, who balled out. And to do it on that rep, on that play against a receiver of that caliber, great job from Ingram. And again, good job from Baylon Spector taking away that initial part by carrying that vertical.
Now watch this play. It's another trip set to the top of the screen. Watch the communication by Rapp. I mean, if you guys aren't watching Rapp, I know a lot of people don't like him.
A lot of people don't
like him, but I tell you what, like, he is super important. We saw this some of this last year. When we're
Mm-hmm.
talking pre-snap communication and alignment, look at what he does here. Okay, so they're keying, obviously they're keying Hill right here. So you can see everyone looking right at him, and everyone is looking at Rap. What are we calling here? What's happening? Tell us what to do. And watch him
Tell
communicate to
us,
Spector.
Taylor.
He's like, hey, he's letting him know what he needs to do. They understand Hill's in the slot, and they're trying to get Hill, much like that tight end, matched up versus Spector, and they do. But watch how poised Spector is and how he carries Hill and shuts him down. This is the play that Tua scrambled and got the first down. But you don't think they wanted to get the ball to Hill over the middle of the field? But the defense, again, hit with Rap, Spector, and even Hamlin on the backside, they're completely aware of what the Dolphins are trying to do. So Spector does a great job one-on-one, but you can see Rap is shading over here a little bit. Hamlin is shading to squeeze that. So the Bills were very good. We talked about at the top how well they understood the offense of the Dolphins, and Spector, Rap, and Hamlin on this play helped shut down Hill when they tried to get that matchup on Spector. And it led to Tua scrambling. And again, he picked up the first down, but he also didn't return after this hit.
Yeah, and we'll hope, prayers up for him and hope he's all right with how he looked after that. And again, like you said, just the ability for the Bills time and time again to get into the windows and the lanes that Tua wants to hit, especially from a quickness and an immediacy perspective. And at this point, the blueprint is kind of out a little bit. Like, force him off that first read. If you can get him to go from first to second, that's good for you. If you can get him to go from first to second to third, that's even better for you. And the Bills constantly putting bodies in that spot. And this end zone angle is a really great job. Just look at Spector, just how comfortable he looks.
Yeah.
And, Hill puts on the brakes and Spector grabs a little bit, but it's nothing egregious. He
No.
stays in phase with him for a really good job. And even, Rap, to your point, say he shook Spector.
Yep.
Rap is right there to jump
if he were to pivot that way, right? He's bracketed.
There's nowhere for him to go. And then because of what Hamlin was doing to kind of shade a little bit towards the middle of the field there, and then that window, like you said, he's then in position to make the play on Tua once he scrambles.
Yep.
And it just, that's what leads to the stop there. And also shout out to, Devin Achane for a good block on Cam Lewis that opens that up a little bit for Tua. But yeah, just the Bills continuously showing when they spin or the coverages they use in what moment. It just seems like in high leverage situations, they know where Miami wants to go with the ball and what they want to do, and they're in position to take it away and make it a problem for Miami.
Then we talked about the different, cover two variations.
I love this one. Oh,
this is it. And again, the Dolphins, it's not like it confused the Dolphins, but again, they put up decent production versus cover two, but I just love the different variations that you're going to see from the Bills. So it looks like almost a single high safety look pre-snap, but then you're going to have Rap drop out into the deep half, but you're having Hamlin drop down underneath into that hook to curl area. And then Benford is now becoming the deep half safety there. So it's still a Tampa 2. And I say it's still Tampa 2 because that means Baylon Spector,
look at him
right here, is now matched up with Tyreek Hill once again, and he runs with him. He runs pretty well with him. Again, play the leverage, get it underneath him. You have safety help, and Tampa 2 in many ways ends up being cover 3, especially when you have some of these bender routes going down the middle of the field versus middle of the field open coverages. So pretty good job by Spector, man. Get on your horse in this Tampa 2 look. Carry Tyreek Hill, force the underneath throw, which they do here. And again, the Dolphins do, pick up the first down, but you're taking away the explosive play. And the person that had a lot to do with that, Baylon Spector.
I'm waiting for somebody to make the comment of like on one of these Tampa looks where he's carrying someone and being like, man, I see that 54 and just reminds me a lot of Brian Urlacher. And we're like, okay, no, don't do that. Do not do that. But this is a really good play. Like to even be this close against Tyreek Hill, who can absolutely fly, as everyone knows. That's a good job. And he turns, he opens up, gets on his horse, but also a good job from Benford, like playing over the top there, recognizing the threat. I know Jonnu gets open a little bit towards the bottom, but the ball isn't going there. Like, you recognizing the threat and you're playing the odds. Benford stays over the top. And so it's a really good job from Spector. And I really like this play. Again, I know it didn't, blow Miami's mind and throw them into the fire, but they were getting into these cover 2 and Tampa 2 variations in week 1. But a lot of them were Hamlin being that Tampa player or being that, high hole player, or the pole runner, the Tampa player. This time he's a hook curl player, dropping down and buzzing down, and Dorian is going to the other hook curl, and then Spector is running the pole.
Yeah.
This is a league-wide trend we're seeing, obviously league-wide because it's a league-wide trend, but it's nice to see the Bills variations in. And then when they tie it to their simulated pressures and the other things that they're doing, it's a nice little wrinkle that just adds something else you have to prepare for or expect if you're an opposing offense.
Yeah, and I like how Babbage is tying the coverages together. We showed, some of the Tampa 2 cover 2 variations. We're going to see some cover 3 stuff. They've run cover 6 13.3% of the time. That's 9th overall in the NFL. Last year they were at 12.2%, also 9th overall last year. But here's the interception by Ingram, and this is cover 6, and we'll break it down here in a second. But what I love about this is it looks awfully similar to a cover 3 type look. So cover 6, top of the screen, you're going to have Douglas as again a cloud corner right there. He's the flats player. Your deep half player is Hamlin, and then you have quarter player here. Benford is a quarter player here, and then everyone else is underneath here. And in many ways, in coverage, this looks like cover 3. Watch as we get to the top here. He looks like he's spinning to the post because he's got a bender route right here. He looks like a deep third player. He looks like a deep third player. So it looks like there's 3 deep, and then that means 4 underneath. So it's very much looks like cover 3, but it's cover 6. That's why True Media actually mischarted this. And so
yeah, you think they charted it as like cover 3 cloud?
Yeah, exactly it. And so if this were actually, straight up cover 3, this dagger route right here that the Tua throws it to would probably be open because you have that like picket fence between those 4 underneath the defenders. This guy's still going to drift, but really good anticipation from Tua. But this is more of an unforced error from the Bills coverage. I just like the spin and how it ties into their entire coverage. But the cover 6 call, the read by Benford puts him right at the catch point. Did he make a huge impact on the play? Probably not, but he was right there. As soon as the ball made contact with the receiver, Benford was there. It's kicked up into the air, and kudos to Ingram because you see him as he's getting out to his flats area, hook to curl the flats area. You see him hinge right there. This is why they hinge. If he had stayed looking like this and with his shoulders, pointing this way and his body looking out here to the field, who knows if he can transition and flip those hips to go get this interception. He hinges, gains depth, and he's right there for the interception.
I don't have too much to add. That was my big point, that because he hinges, his hips are already allowing him to easily get upfield and be in better position to make a play on the ball. So I love that point.
Fundamentals, man, right? I mean, coaches have to have, Babbage says it all the time, they have to have these guys, these backups ready to go and doing things that they have the starters doing. This is one of those examples.
Yeah, and it's great. Like you said, fundamentals. It's great technique. You hinge at that spot. We see it from some of the best in the game and from the best like schools in college and NFL in terms of how they teach. So that's a great job from Ingram. And I really hoped when I saw this live that Benford got a hand on it because I'm just looking for any reason to shout from the mountaintops about how good Christian Benford is. But yeah, it was a bit of an unforced error. But again, kudos to Benford for being in that spot and being close to making a play on it. And again, third down, good highlight. These high leverage situations, the pick 6 for Ingram later came on a third down, just these big moments. And again, stepping up, knowing where to be in the windows, being able to play it, being smart, and kind of gumming up the works for what Miami wants to do. It shows up time and time again for the Bills against Miami, but especially in these high leverage situations.
So here's more of a true cover 3 type look. And another, again, kind of unforced error. I mean, the Bills aren't showing anything crazy. They're showing a single high, post snap structure here. It's just cover 3. So, you're getting this bail technique from Benford. This guy, Cam Lewis, going out to the flat. Spector does a good job of kind of expanding, and maybe part of why the ball sailed is Tua is trying to get it up and over Spector and into this hole.
Layer it.
But this throw doesn't need to be even made to this guy. It's first down. Get it out to that escort.
There's so much
swing.
Space for the escort. There's so much, yeah.
Yeah, and so, again, maybe Spector has something to do with that based on where his landmark is there. But this is simple cover 3. There's no disguising. There's no pre to post snap changing picture. Just a bad play and decision by Tua, and obviously a bad throw.
Yeah, and I also think maybe if Robbie doesn't slip and fall, maybe, but it's
Hmm.
still a high throw.
Yeah.
I'm on board with you, and I think Spector's positioning and where he drops to forces Tua to try and layer this in there and drop it in the bucket, and it just gets away from him. And it
Hmm.
goes right to Benford, who makes the good play. But yeah, when we came back and watched the film, I immediately was just like, just throw. I'm not a Dolphins guy, but I was just like, throw the escort, like throw the swing. There's
Hmm.
so much space there, and you've got Ingold leading Achan out in space, and it's early on, it's first down. There's no reason to have to kind of take that. But again, I think this also speaks to, and I don't think Herb Street said it. I think someone else said it. Like these explosive offenses like this, they start to get impatient. They don't want to keep taking the swing. They don't want to keep taking like the hitch. They want to push it. They want to do something.
And it
And
highlights how trash the straight drop back game without all the
good
gimmicks
call.
pre
Good
and
call.
post snap. It really highlights. I said it during the game. Their straight drop back game, if they get behind, especially, is kind of trash. When anytime Tua was trying to throw the ball over 5 yards without any gimmicks, it stuff like this happened. Like I'll show you his charts here in a couple minutes. Like
Mhm.
everything was short behind the line of scrimmage or like under 5 yards. Anything in the intermediate deep areas, they got zip zero for it. And honestly, it cost them the game in many ways because it was a simple throw here, a simple coverage. Just get it out, stay on schedule, throw it to the
Mhm.
escort swing. And he didn't. And again, the ball ends up in the Bills' hands. Complimentary football. Bills get the ball now, in great position on offense.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And they, it seems almost like I said something similar during the game. Like I think like their offense has become centered more on like the auxiliary pieces,
Mhm.
like the motion and the dressing, than it is like more of the core, like the drop back game stuff, or just being able to create regular displacement in the run. Like it seems so much of the offense has become dependent upon the presentation or the misdirection or the dressing, all these auxiliary elements that you want to add
Mhm.
to put your offense over the top, but they're not the things you start with foundationally. Yeah, and that's a good example on that one.
All right. So moving forward now, I like this disguise. The
Yeah, that's a
Bills
good one.
The Bills like to play cover two man a bunch. They're second overall right now through 2 games in cover two man at 3.7%. Last year they ran it at 2.8%, which was third overall. And so we saw a bunch of this in this game, especially early in the game and some of those third down situations where, I mean, if the Dolphins receivers don't slip or if the pass is a little bit better, could have been some big plays, but
Yeah.
here they're disguising it. Pre-snap, they're showing two man. You see the two high safeties there, Rapp and Hamlin, and then everyone's manning up. But post-snap, again, it's nothing special. Hamlin's just dropping down, and this is just cover three. But
Mhm.
again, I talked about how the Bills didn't just spot drop; they were kind of matching, you know, the receivers. So you could see they're playing 3 over 2 cover three versus those two receivers to the top of the screen. They're playing essentially, 4 over 3 with kind of Rapp getting to the post here.
Mhm.
To the bottom of the screen, they're matching all these coverages. It looks like man pre-snap, post-snap. They change it into cover three, and you got Hill running in breaker. You got Waddle stemming outside and coming back over the middle. Obviously, Tua thinks it's probably man coverage, but you talked about Hamlin just being in the right spot. He's taken
Mhm.
away Hill, working high to low. And then again, maybe Waddle stays on his feet, doesn't, slip out of the break on this fourth down. And maybe Tua is able to hit him, and then Hamlin's right there to make the tackle. But we talked about complementary football. This is the play where Ed Oliver just took over
Mhm.
and said, "Give me that," and brought Tua down there. So pass rush, pass coverage. I'm sorry, working together here. Scheme working together here. It was all working. This is how the Bills got the ball back on a turnover on downs.
Yeah, it starts with that great disguise. You're showing, and it makes sense, right? Like the Bills, when they've played a lot of their two man, it's on third downs or like these third and shorts or fourth and
Mhm.
shorts where they're trying to close down the airspace and make an offense try to make tight window throws. And actually, I think ironically, last year a couple of their big plays against Miami in the Week 18 game, they were playing two man on third
Mhm.
downs and fourth downs, and so it's a good disguise. And I love your point about the complementary football because Ed Oliver is the big takeaway for everyone, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a grown man rep. He just bullies the left guard, goes through, gets the sack, but it happens because of Hamlin's presence. Tua looks to Waddle, and Waddle's about to slip. If Hamlin isn't there,
Mhm.
he's going to try and fire that. in there to Hill. We've seen him do it a million times, but Hamlin is right there in that window. And it's not just him buzzing down for the sake of buzzing down. He's buzzing down at a specific point because they are anticipating where those windows are going to be, where that landmark is that Tua wants to hit. And because Tua has to go from 1 to 2, he has to go from 1 to 2 to and then Ed Oliver's right there. So Ed does a great job in beating his man really badly.
So
it's a great rep. He had a couple really great reps in this game. We showed the other one against the run, but some reps against the run and a couple pass rush moves where he's just going through dudes. So you see the physicality and the violence from Ed, and it's a great play by him, but it's made in conjunction with that play on the back end, the disguising of the coverage, but then Hamlin getting down right into that window. And yes, Waddle falling down helps, but Tua having to go from 1 to 2 and then seeing that 2 is cloudy, it allows Ed to get there.
The process, right? The process is right. The strategy with Hamlin and how he's dropping down post snap and changing that picture, the pre-snap picture changing, like all that plays a part in it. And yes, Waddle slipping plays a part as well. But again, when you have those, minute details in the game plan, in the play, on the short week, on top of the individual standout effort by Oliver, and it all comes together, this is what happens. And so that's football. And you see all these little things in a game, especially on the short week, become major factors. Here's another, again, cover 3 variation. You saw that simple pre to post snap picture change on that last play. Here on this play, it's even prettier because, again, the Bills know what they want to do. They know the tendencies. So initially they're showing a too high structure, and then you see Cam Lewis bump out and tell Douglas to pop out right there. And that right there, you're looking at this, you're like, what the hell are they trying to run here? And it's like, what are they doing? Like, why is Cam Lewis out here? And they're showing a too high structure. It kind of muddies up the picture, right, Ant, for the quarterback. And so on the snap, once again, all they're doing is dropping into cover 3 again. Here's your 3 deep defenders, but they put Cam Lewis to the bottom over Waddle. Why? You take away those early looks. And that's exactly where Tua is looking right away. Again, if this is a normal cover 3 alignment, you're going to have Cam Lewis inside here a little more. You're going to have Douglas off a little bit because of the reduced split. And so that's going to open up any type of quick game right here to Waddle on this play. But because Cam Lewis is there, now you have foolproof, short game, quick game takeaway. Obviously, you have a deep third player to help down the field. And that's where Tua looks. That's taken away because of that simple alignment tweak in this cover 3 look. You have Spector watching Hill over the middle of the field. Hamlin's dropping into that hook to curl area, and his eyes are on Hill. They do a great job of taking away those early looks. And then, again, complementary football. The rush gets home, creates that pressure, creates that error on this play. And the ball ends up in Ingram's hands, and the Bills got 6 on the board.
Yeah, you nailed everything. I don't have too much to add except you know what this made me immediately think of? Remember when Philly did this last year to Diggs by putting Byard over Diggs? And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, they ran. This is cover 3 buzz. The Eagles ran cover 3 sky, but they put Byard over Diggs right away to take him away.
And Josh still threw it to him. Yeah, still got it to him on the sideline.
Yeah. And so it's just, again, another little wrinkle. This is just a simple coverage. This isn't anything crazy, but the way they spin to it, what they do pre-snap, again, all of these changes in looks and changing the pre to post snap picture and just little variations and wrinkles to add another element. And then what that does on the back end, and again, pairing with what it is up front, we get a really nice game between Von Miller and Ed Oliver, a little exit stunt there. Von darts inside. Ed times it perfectly and loops around, stays tight, but he takes a really good angle. So once he loops, he's bearing down on a beeline straight for Tua. And then front side, I don't know if it was on purpose or it just happened to play out that way because Greg Rousseau completely owned the left tackle that was in for Armstead, and Epinesa read it. It looked like they kind of adjusted on the fly, but it does
look on the fly to me.
Yeah, right. So it just based on their tracks and how they move. But essentially, you basically get 2 exit stunts, and they both work, and your 2 interior players, AJ Epinesa being one of them, being in a reduced alignment on this play. You get your 2 interior dudes compressing, meeting at the spot everything working together. So you get some cool, fun coverage stuff on the back end. You get some stuff working up front, and then that all leads to the interception. And this was really one that opened the floodgates, the straw that broke the camel's back. The Bills go up 31-10, never look back. This was it was early in the third quarter, but that really was, for all intents and purposes, the nail in the coffin. And it came because of, and you said it in the previous play, good individual player execution, but tying into a sound process and things being sound schematically. And when you've got, man, I'm excited to think of when you've got good individual play, like high level individual play, but you're sound schematically, you're hard to beat, man. And they're not even 100% on that side of the ball. Like, it's just, dude, yeah.
I mean, no Johnson, no Milano, no Bernard for the most, this game. It's been fun to watch. And again, we're film junkies, so we're watching Babbage and his iteration of this defense very closely. And I like what they're doing with some of the safety spins and the nickel spins, the boundary corner spins, the different ways they're getting to their cover two variations. It's been fun to see. And it's something that we talked about, I think back last year at the Senior Bowl, and how they're becoming, they're using their nickel, they're using their boundary corners in ways that do not present tendencies that offenses had picked up on over the last few years. And we talked about Joe Dana, the secondary coach, and how maybe he was able to do that with the Texans and his years there and his travels over the last few years in the league. And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see them, combine the safeties with the nickels and the corners, and how they're, tying them together in coverages to just half a click. Get the quarterback, think about it for half a click. And maybe the quarterback starts his eyes on the wrong side because he was expecting this coverage versus what they dropped into. It's been fun to watch. And then you're adding in some of, those really good pass rushes from guys like Von Miller. He's back, man. That boy back. Like, I don't know what else to tell you guys. Like, he's back. And so when you add his, his pass rush arsenal in some of those high leverage situations, and as he gets more reps, the pass rush is going to help the coverage even more. So even though they are dropping into some of these, again, simple cover 3 looks, simple cover 3 buzz, simple Tampa 2 coverages and their variations, the pass rush is complementing it right now early in the season, and it's leading the takeaways, it's leading the turnovers, and that's what the Bills need on that side of the ball, especially when you consider the injuries that are happening at that second level.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some questions about who was going to provide the top end pass rush production this year, depending on what Von was going to be. And then, how the safeties would fit together. The one thing I was confident in was, well, they have an amazing second level, 2 legitimate all pros with Milano and Taryn, and then a potential, budding all pro maybe in Terrell Bernard. And then we're here in the second game and all 3 of them are friggin' out. And I don't want to say they didn't miss a beat, but they kind of didn't miss a beat. And that's because the guys who stepped in are well prepared.
They are.
Scheme and also to talk on that, we've seen that for years, like depth guys fitting in and still like being fine and being able to go. It's been one of the hallmarks and the staples of this Bills team. I know as much maligned as Dane Jackson was. Every time Dane Jackson stepped in, he wasn't a vulnerability or a deficiency. Like, he just came and played sound football. He wasn't some high-end top-tier dude, but he
was mentally tough, right?
Yes.
Like, even if he did lose a rep, the next one he's getting a PBU. I think you're seeing that for guys like Ingram and Cam Lewis. Are they making mistakes? Are they, sometimes missing, their eyes aren't as disciplined? Yeah. But then they're coming back and making big plays in high leverage situations. And again, you're right. It starts at the top. It starts with McDermott. It starts with Bobby Babbage and the positional coaches getting these guys ready when the opportunity arises.
I'm going to go back and find it because Babbage said it during camp that, Sean McDermott talks about it all the time. Like, we judge ourselves on how it's something to the tune of, we judge ourselves on how the depth guys play and how the backups play. Cause that's a sign of like how we're preparing, how we're teaching, how we're, getting that message out. And I know the Bills have had Miami's number, and we talked about some of their, core offensive things structurally not necessarily being there. But this is an offense that puts up points. They generate explosives, and the Bills had a major potential vulnerability at the spot where Miami manipulates teams, and they didn't really show it. And granted, the game got away from Miami a little bit, and the run had to fade along with it, and that changed some things. But yeah, the individual player execution, the way they were sound schematically, and like you said, the process was sound. And then all these little wrinkles that they're showing in and throwing in there, just it's such a good foundation, and it's a good menu, and it's a good variety in terms of the package that they got. And as we continue to go forward, they're going to need it with the different types of offenses they play, you know, with Jacksonville coming up, and then with Baltimore coming up, and then with Houston coming up, and like Seattle down the road, and the Rams down the road. Like it's all these offenses that present different things schematically with their identity and philosophy, but also with their personnel grouping. So you need to be able to be versatile on your defense to match with what they're going to do. And then being creative on top of that adds another element. I was just very impressed with how this defense, again, held it all together and had a really good performance despite all the injuries and the short week and everything. So really good performance from them, good performance from the offense. And Erik, before we wrap up, we have some questions that we want to get to.
A couple questions from our insiders. And if you're not an insider, I don't know what you're waiting for.
What to tell you.
I mean, we have our partnership with 26 Shirts, Dell and Bills Mafia and all those guys. Each year, once you sign up, each year you're going to get a new cover one design.
Oh, the shirt this year is so cool.
Shirts.
Sorry,
yeah, man. Bring up that while I talk about this question. So each year, again, One Pass insiders are going to get this shirt once you sign up. So in our Discord channel, again, we always talk about how you guys, our insiders, bring a lot of topics and questions to the table. And one of our guys, Mike Crow, was talking about and wondering, Anthony, your thoughts on Christian Benford's play, Rasul Douglas's play through 2 weeks this season.
I'm very impressed with Benford and Douglas. They were they're not at the second level, but I'm going to kind of include it like that. Milano, Benford, or Milano, Bernard, Taryn, and then bookended by Benford and Douglas was a grouping that I was really excited to see. And to watch what they've done against the pass has been exciting, but watching them play against the run, I think it's part of the reason they're also playing some of that cover 2 stuff, because they're able to set that kind of hard edge as those force players on the outside. They're coming up, they're making plays. I really think Benford and Douglas are so well fit for today's NFL because of what they can do in coverage, but then how they're able to play the run and their size, their physicality, their technical. I still think what we see from Douglas is who he is, and that's a very good corner. Benford is still trending up, man. Like he just continues to get better. One of the plays we didn't even show, that downfield coverage on Tyreek Hill and cover 3. In the game. Yeah, he's right on top. If that's a better throw from Tua, that's an interception.
And he did intercept
last year
in the same coverage, cover 3 call. He bailed, got deep, and he took the ball away.
Yeah, bro, he's balling out like
he's steady. He's like a silent assassin. Like he's not going to talk much. He's going to let his consistent play really be the words that all he needs to say, really.
and he was somebody that we talked about, despite being like a really good player. He was one of our under the radar dudes for this year, just because, especially nationally, but even locally, he wasn't really getting talked about by fans. And he wasn't even. There was people that were still having the conversation when Elam was doing good in camp. They were like, "Oh, I think Elam should at least platoon out there, or Elam could beat it out." And we were like, "No, like." No disrespect to Elam, Benford's really freaking good. So I've been very impressed with he and Douglas. I think they're a really strong corner tandem, and I think as the year goes on, they'll be in the conversation for one of the best outside duos in the league if they stay healthy. Fingers crossed. No jinx.
I agree. I think they're a perfect fit for this defense. A great point. Jim Wickens, another insider, asks, "How are the 3 interior offensive linemen grading out so far?" I think they've had their moments. Again, we talked about them as a unit, and I think that's the thing with offensive line. Like you can talk about, a guy losing a rep here and there, and everyone on the offensive line loses a rep here and there. But as a unit, I thought they've played very well so far. I think what has surprised me the most about the 3 interior guys has been Connor McGovern and his run blocking. For what he's been able to do, whether it's you saw it on that James Cook touchdown, just anchoring down and just holding his ground and not getting blown back like we saw Morse at times on base blocks get thrown back against bigger nose tackle types. He anchored down, held the line there, and then you saw the movement by the triple team, and Cook bounced off off the nose tackle and into the end zone for a 49-yard touchdown. I think that's probably the biggest surprise for me is how well McGovern has fared in the run game at the first level, scoop into the second level. He showed some decent range where sometimes the linebacker is fast flowing outside and he's still got to go get him and take him where he wants to go. Maybe he doesn't get the exact positional leverage that he's supposed to, but he understands I'm just going to attach to him, take him where he needs to go, and the running back will play off of it. I think that has been the biggest surprise for me for the 3 interior guys overall. I'll get your thoughts quickly on how you think they've graded out, whether it's run or pass.
I think Edwards has been good, as we kind of thought he would be. Just
Steady.
steady Eddie. Yep. Steady Eddie in the run and in the pass. He had a couple really nice support reps in this game where he's working back and just crushing Chop Robinson, who's trying to work inside against Deion Dawkins. I think, he deserved more respect coming into the year from fans who were a lot more worried about him than we were. But he's a Cromer. He's a Cromer disciple. Was a starter on a Super Bowl winning team. He's been good. I like your points on McGovern. His one, and I'm going to tie in for McGovern to something we talked about earlier this offseason in terms of the differences between him and Morris. His length showing up in the run. He had a block, and you see it regularly, but I think of he had a block on, they ran mid zone against Miami, and the tackle tried to cross face, and McGovern literally just used his right arm and just used that to wash him down and extended and just walled him off and shielded him. And then I think it was Ray Davis who cut back on it. Like the length showing up, allowing him to win first touch, but then how he uses it in conjunction with leverage and positioning, I thought has shown up nicely. Torrance, I think Torrance is still Torrance. I think he's had some really physical run blocks. Him and Spencer Brown are just, they're like the friggin' Bash Brothers from Mighty Ducks when it comes to blocking and double teams on that right. I love watching them together. I still think he's putting some things together in pass pro, especially against like quicker, speedier guys. But overall,
he overextends a little bit from time to time, and the guy just crosses his face. It's been there since Florida, and he's still working on that for sure.
Yeah, and especially too considering like the size that he is, like he's a mauler and a bit of a plotter at times. But I think he's been fine. I like what this O-line has been holistically.
Yes.
I think the interior is more than fine. I think if Torrance can clean some things up, this group really starts to ascend, because then you're looking at a very limited group in terms of having deficiencies or vulnerabilities.
All right. And so we talked about it.
Oh, we partnered up. Cool.
We partnered up with 26 shirts. So each person that signs up to become an insider, you're going to be getting this shirt. This is the 2024 iteration of this shirt. I love the design. I love the color. I love everything about this. It's
Talk
really
about the stuff on all the vials in the jar.
Yeah, the all 22, the salary cap, the breakdowns. It's a little bit of everything. That's what, makes me so proud to cover one. We try to cover it from all angles to make you a more informed fan. And so to partner up with a company like 26 Shirts and Dell and everyone over there, like it's kind of surreal when you think about it, because they're such a reputable company, and really the reason Bills Mafia is Bills Mafia. And I'm not just talking about the rowdiness and the fan base that, rallies around this team. I'm talking about, the stuff that they do behind the scenes and helping these families and what they stand for and helping others. I mean, you think about Bills Mafia this past week when Tua went down with that concussion. Bills Mafia went out and donated like $18,000 to his foundation.
Yeah.
Like that's what, 26 Shirts is about. That's why we're so proud to partner up with them. Each year, Josh and Dell and 26 Shirts is going to have a different iteration of this shirt. And so, again, sign up to become an insider. You guys are the reason why we're able to do a lot of this stuff when we're talking the telestration, all of the memberships with the analytics. You're also a huge driving force behind like the topics and what we do for these shows. And while we show up on a Sunday morning and want to rip through this film when the Bills aren't playing, because we know you guys want this content and you want it now. And so we're giving it to you. So again, thank you to all the current insiders. And we hope that, a bunch of you decide to join up with us and become part of our Discord channel and server, because again, football is talked about in there all day. But it's not just football. There are other things too, right?
Yeah, there's everything that we've said it all the time when we talk about the insiders, like the different varying we have. I mean, even just for us, right? We have the specific film channel where we're putting more stuff in there than we're normally sharing on Twitter or even here on the show. And then the fantasy football channel, and everybody's just getting into different levels and layers of Bills talk, football in general talk. Life talk. People like to get into golf stuff and politics and everything. Like there's just a variety, and it's all in this good community, this tight-knit community. And when you join in there, you're made to feel like you're one
Yeah.
of them. And yeah, to be able to have that little extra reward on top of it of, that shirt and partnering with 26 shirts. And like you said, like who they are in terms of the cause and how the company was
Yeah.
started and what it does. And, I had the pleasure of meeting Dell when Aaron and I did the Mafia Con show last month. And he's just a good dude. And they just do really good stuff in terms of the product they put out, but then the message and the mission behind it. And that shirt is baller. When Greg texted me like 2 weeks ago and was like, hey man, we need your guys' sizes because everybody's getting one of these shirts, I was over the moon. I just think that shirt is baller as hell. And so I
It's
know
funny, like Josh, their designer, he did it in like hour and a half. Like we wrapped a meeting, and then like within 2 hours, we had that design, and it was all sketched out by him. Like, wow, this dude's talented.
So
Everyone
good.
over there is talented. On top of having some of the biggest hearts that this earth knows. Let's be honest here.
It's a combination of like good people and good talent, and that's awesome. And so a tremendous partnership that we're very thankful for, be able to put that product out. I'm pumped to get that shirt. And we know a lot of the inside. I mean, and the reaction, right, when that shirt got put into the Discord, everybody was just like, this shirt was, they were pumped. So we're proud of that. We're proud of the partnership, and we are proud of this episode here in the film. We hope you folks are as well. If you watched it, please drop a like on this video. If you were watching here on YouTube, please, and thank you. It goes a long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. It positively influences the algorithm. So please drop a like on this video if you have not already. Turn on notifications for the Cover One Film Room playlist. Please and thank you. Subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. We have you covered pretty much every single day of the week with varying levels of Bills content. No matter what your poison is, you have the ability to pick from a variety of shows here on the network. Of course, major thanks to Easy Loan for their continued sponsorship and having an awesome play to sponsor this week with that Truo block for the 49-yard touchdown to James Cook. So major thank you to Easy Loan. And of course, thank you to all you folks. Whatever form or fashion your support comes in, we greatly appreciate it. If you're listening on one of the audio platforms, rate and review and subscribe. And of course, wherever you're listening, wherever you're consuming or how, tell your family and friends and loved ones about the channel, the brand, the show. We are still very much, grassroots and word of mouth. So any and every ounce of support, whatever form or fashion it comes in, is greatly appreciated. But that'll do it for us here in this episode of The Film Room. We hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. This, of course, means no Film Room this upcoming Wednesday because this is this week's Film Room episode. So we'll either see you next week or I'll see you this Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Disguised Coverage. But until the next episode of The Film Room, which we'll see what happens because the Bills play on Monday night next week. These primetime games, man, just throw us for the loop. But we'll see you when we see you. Keep your ears to the ground when it comes to Twitter and everything. We'll be communicating all of that. But until we see you next time, I'm Anthony Prohaska. That's Erik Turner. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. We'll see you when we see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.